Hello and welcome to another episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host Eric Smith, and today I want to talk about Anatomy of Evil by Brian Pinkerton. This is from Sam Hain Publishing. I'm recording this on April 11th, and this book just came out on April 7th, so it's nice and fresh. Before I get into what the book's about, there's something I have to cover. Part of the story takes place on an island that's known as Christmas Island, but it has a more official name, and I have no idea how to pronounce it. I shouldn't say no idea, I have two ideas. This is the name of the island. There you go. I looked it up to try to find out how to pronounce it correctly, and I found two different pronunciations. Multiple sources for each pronunciation. So I don't know which one is correct, or if they're both considered correct. The one basically pronounced it exactly the way it looks, Kiritamati. So there was that. But then a couple of other sources said that the T-I is pronounced like an S. So it's Kirismas, which could make sense because it's, again, known as Christmas Island. And so it's, a couple of things said that's almost a literal pronunciation, interpretation, whatever, Kirismas. So I don't know which one is correct, Kirismas or Kiritamati. They don't even sound that similar. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm going to call it Christmas Island, because that's just easier for me. So, with that out of the way, Anatomy of Evil by Brian Pinkerton. You have 7 friends from Chicago. Carol and Jake, they're a couple. Rodney and Kelly, they're a couple. Gary and Emma, a couple. And Sam, whose wife passed away not too long ago, so he's no longer part of a couple. Well, these 7 friends go on vacation to Christmas Island. Now, Christmas Island has a bit of a history. Back in the 60s, perhaps even before that, there was a lot of nuclear testing on and around the island. And then in I think it's 1970, when the treaty was signed, they stopped nuclear testing. But Christmas Island was kind of a wasteland for a long time, until eventually the radiation dissipated, and the island was kind of rebuilt and turned into an island paradise and a tourist destination. So our 7 characters from Chicago go to Christmas Island on this lovely vacation. They're having a great time fishing and shopping and trying the local cuisine, everything you do on a tropical island vacation. Well, the second to last day of their vacation, Carol, Rodney, Gary, and Sam want to go out fishing on a boat. So they rent a boat, and the guy that rents them the boat pulls out a map, and he shows them some really good fishing spots. On the map, there's a spot marked in red, and he says, "Don't go there. It's a bad place. Don't go." And they kind of bug him. Why? What's wrong with it? And finally he says, "Well, there's evil spirits there." And they kind of laugh, and they take the boat, and they go out, and they're fishing, and they're doing okay. But they start to think maybe they were warned away from this certain spot, not because it's actually a bad spot, but because the guy that rented them the boat wants to save that spot for himself and the natives, because it's actually really good fishing, and he doesn't want the tourists going there. So they decide to go, and the fishing is really good. They catch some great fish, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this very weird red storm hits the boat, and it's tossing them about, and there are these weird sort of evil looking faces seem to be forming in the clouds, and it's just, they've never seen anything like this. And then all of a sudden it's gone. Storm's over, seas are calm, so they go back to the island for their last day of vacation, but they're not the same. Carol, Rodney, Gary, and Sam have changed, and they go back to Chicago with their spouses and everything, and things get out of control. Excuse me. And that's basically the setup for what is an amazingly good story. And I think basically all of that is just in this little bit on the back of the book. I went into a little more detail. This doesn't name all the people, but that's basically here. So I haven't given too much away. So that's the setup for Anatomy of Evil by Brian Pinkerton. And as I said, just a fantastic book. Pinkerton's writing style is incredibly smooth, and this story is incredibly fast-paced. It's only 217 pages, and he packs a lot of story into those pages. If life didn't get in the way, I would never have put this down until I finished it. Unfortunately, other things call for my attention, and I had to set it aside and come back to it when I could. But I could have easily read this in one sitting. Now, anyone who's watched my videos or knows me knows I always talk about how important character is. And in this book, I think it's doubly important. And Pinkerton takes the time to develop the characters. Chapters 2 through 5 are completely devoted to developing the characters. And it never gets bogged down. The writing, again, is just quick and smooth and interesting. But it's important that he do this and that he lets us really get to know the characters. Who they are, how they interact with their family and their friends and their co-workers, and sort of where they fit in their society, their circles. It's important that we learn all of this so that when they come back from vacation and they're changed, it's got that much more impact. Because in the very short time that we get to know these characters, at least I got to like these characters. So when they go through the change, it really hits you. And I think if he hadn't taken the time to really give us that development, then the change would not have as much impact. But it certainly does. We see, just I can't remember what show it is where someone says they didn't just do a 180, they did a 360, which of course would put them back where they started. So no, they only do a 180. But just an amazingly well told story. Excuse me. A lot of stuff going on, like I said, but I'm not going to give you any details, at least in the video, because you got to learn it. You got to read it and learn everything for yourself. As always, the comments will be open for spoilers, as long as you're polite and post a spoiler warning. So if you want to know more details, feel free to ask in the comments below, and I will post a spoiler warning and tell you anything you want to know about the book. But I mean, the whole point in reading a book is to learn the story as you go. You don't want to know the story ahead of time, aside from that setup. And some people don't even want that. I know some people that never read the back of the book, which I don't understand how I guess you judge a book by its cover and just pull it off the shelf and read it. I don't understand how you can choose a book to read without knowing anything at all about it. I'm getting a little off tangent there. Just because some people's reading habits are weird to me. But anyway, so yeah, if you want to know anything else, just ask me in the comments below. I mean, I can tell you a little bit more about the characters. Like Carol works in some sort of high financy kind of thing. I'm not really clear on it. It's no fault of Mr. Pinkerton. I know she works for a company that works with banks and financial institutions. Rodney is a cop in Chicago, a good cop, really cares about the neighborhood, cares about the kids in the neighborhood. Gary is an ex-professional football player who now has his own sporting goods store. And Sam is, as I said, he's a widower, and he's a very religious man, very active in his church. And again, you get to know all of this early in the book, so that when they make that change because of what happens on Christmas Island, it has a very big impact. But they're very good characters. I could have read even more about them before the change, gotten to know them even more. I mean, you do get to know them enough, but they're such interesting characters, I could have spent more time with them. Although they're pretty interesting after the change, too. Probably more entertaining. But that's basically, those are my thoughts on Anatomy of Evil by Brian Pinkerton. I've got my rating here. Quite possibly my worst drawings ever. I think they look like they were done by a 1-year-old. But I give Anatomy of Evil 4.5 out of 5 demonic-faced storm clouds. Although, only this one really looks demonic. I mean, that one looks like it's happy. So does the one in the middle. But, so that's my drawing. 4.5 out of 5 demonic storm clouds. Just a fantastic book. I really like, this is the second thing I've read by Pinkerton, and I really enjoyed the first one that I read. He has another book from Sam Hain that I have, but I haven't read it yet. So definitely an author to check out. This would be a great place to start. So if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments down below. As I said, comments are open for spoilers, so just post a spoiler warning. As always, I will have a couple of links for this book in the description below. I'll have one for Amazon and one for Sam Hain. And please like, share, and subscribe. And I think that covers it. I'm getting to that rambling point, so that always means it's time to call it quits on this low-budget review show. So until next time, read more books.